In Ecuador, the death toll from Saturday's massacre rose to 9. In Palestine, Israeli genocidal troops withdrew their tanks and troops from Al-Shifa hospital, leaving the largest hospital in ruins. In the Vatican City, Pope Francis insisted during his Easter message on the call to achieve worldwide peace. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the death toll from the massacre that took place on Saturday on the Ecuadorian coast rose to 9. At a press conference, police authorities announced that 4 people perpetrated the massacre and that investigations are continuing. They also emphasized that the Guasmo Sur hospital, where the wounded were taken, is under security for incidents related to the arrival of the wounded. In spite of the Phoenix Plan developed by the government of Daniel Noboa, in these last days, on the eve of the national consultation, criminal violence has intensified. 3 massacres, as well as the assassination of regional governors and police officers, summarize a bloody week. Peruvian Public Prosecutor's Office rejected on Sunday President Dina Boluarte and her defense's claim of illegality and unconstitutionality in relation to the search of her residence. The government agency reiterated that the search had been ordered by the nation's Supreme Court and rejected as untrue the defense's allegations that the police had conducted the search inappropriately. The prosecutor's office also said Dina Boluarte's son, Daniel Gomez Boluarte, had been informed about the search, that he delayed the entry to the residence. According to the investigations, the Rolex watch found in Boluarte's home was obtained recently and has an estimated cost of over $10,000. The Peruvian constitutional expert Luciano Lopez supported the prosecutor's office position in relation to the constitutionality of Boluarte's residence search and clarified that the raid decision was not made by the prosecutor but by a judge.
It is important to point out that the decision to raid the property or properties of Mrs. Boluarte is not a decision of the national prosecutor. The national prosecutor has only knocked on the door of the judge, and the judge has evaluated the decision because the Constitution says that all citizens have the right to the inviolability of their residences and that it can only be raided by court order, not from a prosecutor but from a judge. So how can this colleague be filing a habeas corpus against the prosecutor of the nation if the order has been issued by a judge?
Meanwhile, social organizations in Peru supported the decision of the National Public Prosecutor in relation to the case of alleged illicit enrichment involving President-designate Dina Boluarte. Members of different social organizations came to the surroundings of the Public Prosecutor's office in support of the prosecutor Juan Carlos Villena after the break-ins at Dina Boluarte's house and in the government palace. People attending questioned Boluarte for victimizing herself in her recent message to the nation. They also demand justice and wondered that so far no investigations have been carried out concerning the 50 demonstrators who died in the last protest against the government of President-designate.
We have a woman whose hands are blood-stained, Dina Boluarte, who has murdered dozens of Peruvians, but yet the justice system did not prosecute her. Now the judicial authorities want to condemn her. They prosecute her for being corrupt and a criminal. The population is tired of so much misery, of so much generalized crisis we are living. Represented by this lady. That is why we are here at the National Prosecutor's Office, giving support to Prosecutor Villena, so that he can get to the bottom of the investigation and achieve the sanction and sentence corresponding to Dina Boluarte, not only for the luxury watches, for the jewelry and for that illicit enrichment, which has to be proven since she became a pseudo-president, but also because we want justice for our brothers, dozens of brothers murdered in this regime.
Venezuela's Minister of Defense Vladimir Padrino Lopez warned about the expected attempts by sectors of the opposition to destabilize the nation's life ahead of the July 28th elections. In a message on his official X account, Padrino Lopez described the attempts as coming from sectors representing the imperial interests in Venezuela and assured they will fail again by the legal means established in the nation's constitution. In another part of his measures, the defense minister denounced that those he called mafias living in Miami and Bogota as being behind the actions against Venezuela and urged the Bolivarian soldiers to be alert and to keep their loyalty to the homeland. On the other hand, Venezuela's Minister of Foreign Relations, Ivan Hill, described the sectors of the opposition who are calling for violence in the country as terrorists. Through his official X account, Hill also said the distress those sectors are suffering is pushing them to confess their plans on social media with enough damning evidence of their guilt. The Minister of Defense sentenced finally that the Venezuelan far right doesn't believe in democracy nor in elections. Panama's authorities warn of an increase in the number of irregular migrants entering the country. During the first quarter of the year, over 108,000 irregular migrants crossed the Darien jungle. According to the National Migration Service, this figure represents an increase of up to 24% compared to the same period in 2023, when more than 87,000 individuals crossed the jungle. Authorities warn that most of those who cross the jungle that connects Colombia with Panama suffer from dehydration, stomach or respiratory diseases, and some are victims of sexual aggressions, while others die during the journey. Uruguay has completed the operation for the return of displaced people after the floods caused by heavy rains of the last few days. A statement issued by the Departmental Emergency Committee of Durazno reported that the return operations were carried out properly, reducing by 47% the number of evacuees and self-evacuees nationwide. This comes after it was reported that the area was stable, and they confirmed that the Yi River is already in its normal flow. Along with the return operations, the last medical round was concluded with distribution of food, hygiene kits, and fumigation tasks to fight the prevalence of mosquitoes in the departmental capital. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats. Those stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. After 2 weeks of siege, Israel's genocidal troops withdrew their tanks and troops from Al-Shifa. They leave their largest hospital in Gaza, turning into a cemetery in ruins. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that in the early hours of Monday, dozens of dead bodies have been observed. Israel deployed the third operation against Al-Shifa with the same motivation of neutralizing Hamas militants. This time, there is no evidence either or only corpses. Previously, the occupiers' troops claimed to have eliminated 200 of its members. The World Health Organization, on the other hand, referred to innocent victims, many of them patients and medical personnel. In Palestine, the number of deaths increases to 34 due to malnutrition and dehydration due to the lack of supplies in north of the Gaza Strip. Authorities confirmed the death of 4 Palestinians, including 2 children, in a hospital in northern Gaza due to the hunger crisis produced by the Israeli siege against Gaza. Official sources alert that the number of dead children due to the lack of food increased to 31, so they ensure that minors are the most affected by the conflict. In this sense, the World Health Organization warned that malnutrition is greater in the northern Gaza region, where the destruction of infrastructure and the shortage of water, food, and medicines put the life of hundreds of citizens in danger. Israeli artillery and shellings against the Gaza Strip have left at least 13 dead east of Han Yunis in the last 24 hours. Authorities reported that dozens of people were killed or wounded after an Israeli bombardment on the city of Bani Shuhela. Sources also said that Israeli shelling killed several civilians and wounded others while they were waiting for humanitarian aid to arrive southeast of the city of Gaza. According to local media, residents and rescue teams are still searching the collapsed structures after the attacks. At least 4 Palestinians have been killed and another 16 wounded on Sunday after Israeli occupation forces carried out a new airstrike against a tent for the displaced in a Gazan hospital. According to local media, the tent had been set up in the courtyard of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza. The Gazan authorities have held the United States, Israel, and the international community responsible for this and all the crimes perpetrated against civilians in the region. Also, Palestinian authorities warned that the Office of the United Nations Middle East Organization for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, faces a financial crisis after Israeli accusations against that United Nations agency. The Department of Refugee Affairs of the Organization for the Liberation of Palestine warned about the crisis of the United Nations Public Works and Relief Agencies for Palestinian refugees in the Middle East. The agency warned that the funds available in UNRWA's budget cover the needs of Palestinians until the end of May. However, after this month, it will enter into a deficit in relation to its regular budget. Officials noted that at least 16 countries suspended their funding to the agency after Israel claimed that 12 of its employees were involved in Hamas operations without being able of proving these accusations. Millions of people have once again taken over the streets in almost every country of the world. They took the Palestinian Land Day celebrations as an opportunity to demand an immediate ceasefire from Israel. In the last few weeks, these demonstrations have multiplied and the demand is direct to the Zionist occupier. Millions pressured their governments to demand Israel to comply with the United Nations Security Council resolution. In the cities of the United Kingdom and the United States, whose executives cooperate directly with the genocide that has claimed over 32,000 lives, besides taking over the streets, protesters occupied key locations and chained themselves to ports from where weapons that kill mainly Palestinian women and children are shipped out. Also in Germany, citizens mobilized in support of Palestinian cause and people were repressed by security forces. Groups of pro-Palestinian activists held a demonstration in Berlin, the capital city of the country, to demand an end of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Demonstrations were repressed by German police. The arbitrary arrest of an activist for carrying a pro-Palestinian flag was also reported. These actions were condemned by the mobilized people, who affirmed that they would not stop supporting the Palestinian cause. In Syria now, a car bomb attack in the province of Aleppo has left at least 8 people dead and more than 20 injured. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the vehicle exploded early Sunday morning in a popular market of the city of Assad in northwestern Syria. The agency informed that the blast caused several damages to cars and a building and sparked a fire around the market. Authorities are currently working to determine the motives of the organization has claimed responsibility for the attack. The governor of Nicaragua sent a message to the administration of Iran within the framework of the 45th anniversary of the historic referendum of March 1979 that set the Islamic Republic of Iran. The message says, representing the people and government of Nicaragua, we are proud of conveying our most sincere congratulations to you, to your heroic people and government, to commemorate the 45th anniversary of the March 1979 referendum establishing the Islamic Republic of Iran. It added, on these memorable dates and on behalf of the people and government of Nicaragua, we reaffirm our unalterable will to continue strengthening our ties of sisterhood, solidarity, and mutual cooperation, wishing peace, mercy, and blessings of God be with Iran and its noble people. We have a short break now, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Functional break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In the Vatican City, Pope Francis insisted during his Easter message on the call to achieve worldwide peace. During the traditional blessing, Urbi et Orbi, the Supreme Pontiff referred to the conflicts that plague the world and leave death and violence. A good part of his message was dedicated to the Palestinian children, lamenting that they have lost their smile and calling on the so-called international community to respond to such destruction. His voice joined the voice of millions calling for an unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. The Russian airspace forces attacked the energy and gas extraction infrastructure of Ukraine on Sunday. The Eurasian country defense ministry reported they neutralized 3 Sukhoi Su-25 aircraft at the Voskresensk airfield in the province of Nikolaev. He added that before this offensive, Kiev regime suspended the activities in several departments of the military industry dedicated to the manufacture and repair of armament. Also, the military entity detailed that during the last 24 hours, Moscow anti-air defense shot down at least 178 drones and intercepted 23 reactive rockets. Azerbaijan accused Armenia of moving troops, armored vehicles and artillery on the border of both countries. The Azerbaijani Ministry of Defense stated that in view of the intensive movement of military troops in different directions on the common border, it will respond effectively to any provocation. Likewise affirmed that all responsibilities for the worsening of the situation will fully fall on Armenia and its supporters. In this regard, the military entity reported on an increase in the activities of Armenian troops during the last few days, what it qualifies as provocations aimed at increasing tensions. In Turkey, a local election process concluded with the total closing of polling stations in the national territory. Over 61.4 million people were eligible to cast their votes on this election day, in which some 1,400 mayors, members of the municipal assemblies, and some 50,000 non-partisan neighborhood representatives were to be renewed. According to the electoral authorities, it is estimated that the participation registered this Sunday was above 80%. More than 200,000 polling stations closed its doors at 5 p.m. local time to count the votes in order to release the first results. Somalias Congress passed a bill allowing the president to appoint and dismiss the country's prime minister. The Federal Assembly in Mogadishu, Somalia's capital, discussed a proposed constitutional amendment, which was later passed by most members of parliament. One of the amendments provides for the extension of office terms for federal leaders from 4 to 5 years, as well as the direct election of the president. According to the magistrates, these constitutional changes are intended to provide greater governance flexibility and address tensions in the distribution of power. In turn, some political and social sectors in Somalia reject the amendment to the constitution because they consider that there is not enough consensus and that there has not been enough opportunity to discuss these changes. The organizing committee of the Olympic and Paralympic Games of Paris 2024 presented the medals that will be awarded to the 5,000 athletes at the summer events. Secret revealed those who climbed the podium at the event scheduled from July 26 to August 11 for the Olympics and from August 28 to September 8 for the Paralympics can take home, in addition to the gold, silver and bronze won in fair, a souvenir of the engineering work symbol of Paris, the iron used to lift it cast on the medal. The 18 grams of metal will be part of each medal, which will have a total weight of 539 grams for gold, for 455 bronze with a diameter of 85 millimeters and a thickness of about 9 with the hexagon in the center geometric figure, representing France. The design of the medals was the responsibility of the House Chaumet, specialized in jewelry and watchmaking, while the manufacture was the work of Coins of Paris, according to Tony Stanguet, president of the Paris 2024 Organizing Committee. The inclusion of a fragment of the Eiffel Tower in the alloy is intended to motivate competitors. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.